Welcome to the Gyrl Podcast. I'm Kyra Mitchell-Lewis, and thank you all for joining. I hope everyone is doing well. We are in a new year, so happy new year to you all. I hope you all enjoyed a restful, peaceful, and hopefully, time with your families and friends during this past holiday season. I don't know about you, it's always really hard to make that turn after you've had some time away. But I hope that you spent some time to reflect and just time to get ready to attack this new year, with vigor and just ready to go, right? I know we talk a lot about, the year that just passed being like a blur. I mean, I can tell you, feels like, I was in January of 2023, and then all of a sudden it was in January of 2024. But I do just want to say that, last year had a lot of peaks and a lot of valleys and a lot of learnings and just a lot of opportunities, but I'm definitely grateful for all things that occurred, whether they were good or bad moments. They were always teachable moments. So I take from that to bring into the new year. But I also want to say to you all that I am sending, you all very positive vibes for a successful year, whatever that looks like for you. Success does not look the same for everyone. So whatever success looks like for you, I am sending you vibes and wishes and putting out nothing but positivity for you to reach those goals that you may have set for this year. Also, I have to say, I feel very hopeful. I feel like I'm anticipating something amazing happening. So that is how I choose to approach the year. Of course, there will be challenges. There are always challenges in life. And you live long enough, you live in a world long enough with other people, there will be challenges, but I think, I'd like to go into the year just approaching it with a grateful mindset and also hopeful, like I mentioned. So dear friends, I am, sending that same positivity over to you. I hope that if you were someone who spent 2023 planting your seeds, that this year you will see that harvest. No matter what it relates to, if it's from a professional standpoint, a personal standpoint, a job, a business, I am sending you all the love and all the well wishes that you will find whatever success is and looks like for you. So just remember that no two people's success looks the same. And I definitely want us to take that into this year, because we're not being measured by the person standing beside us, the person behind us, the person in front of us. It is that we have to determine what that looks like for each of us. All right. Okay. Well, we're going to go ahead and start with our first interview of the new year, and it's a good one. It's going to be a good one. I'm going to be joined by global business strategist Kerry-Ann Powell, and Kerry really specializes in helping women-led small and medium-sized businesses really get set up. Really making sure that you have the right systems in place, that you have the right processes in place. And this is the start of the year. So whether you are thinking about starting a business or if you already are running a business, it's never a bad idea to come back to, refocus, recenter on the things the frameworks, the things that really matter about making sure that your business can operate smoothly. So I don't know about you, I'm really excited to have this conversation because, a new year always feels like, we all know, a fresh start. So I'm going to be joined by Kerry-Ann in a little bit, and she's going to tell us all the things that we need to know to make sure that we can run our businesses more smoothly and efficiently. So stay tuned, everyone. I'll be right back. Welcome back to the Gyrl Podcast. I'm Kyra. Thank you all for joining. So I'm excited to welcome Kerry-Ann to the podcast. Welcome, Kerry-Ann.
Kyra, thanks for having me. Such a joy.
Awesome. Well, we're going to dive on into this conversation today. So let's get started by having you tell anyone out there listening or watching who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so I'm a business strategist. I own a company named Trafalgar Strategies. And, we often say, how running a business can sometimes feel like managing a chaotic tornado.
Yes.
No, we help business owners run their businesses smoothly so they can thrive in business and in life, Kyra.
Okay, so I absolutely love that. I get, if anyone who listens or watches, when someone says something that like resonates, I get like goosebumps. And when you said that, because as someone who is a workingpreneur, I mean, I feel oftentimes, as many of my listeners and watchers, like, you're trying to build your business, but you're also trying to stay afloat. And so having resources and people like you in the world, and especially people like you to join the show today, just to give us some insight into a better way to do that is always greatly appreciated.
So many entrepreneurs and business owners, they somehow feel like they should do it on their own. Do you notice that? It's sort of this feeling like, well, if I'm not doing it on my own, then am I really doing it? And I really think that I just want to break that for most people, because, there's an African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together.
Yes.
And so I think it's really important to break that narrative that I can do it by myself and really recognize that there's so much power in the togetherness of it.
Yes. Yes, I definitely agree with that. So I want to ask you a question, because obviously, as entrepreneurs, no matter, men, women, I think we all have our own issues or our own problems, roadblocks, so to speak. But let's talk about, women-led startups and men-led startups. Where do you see differences, I guess similarities? Just can you talk a little bit about that in your experience?
That's such an interesting question. I think it's a timely question because I just 3 weeks ago, so I work with business owners, men and women. 3 weeks ago, one of the business owners that I've worked with for quite a while, and she has an amazing company. She's been able to get into corporate 100s and getting clients from corporate 100 companies and stuff. So it's not like it's a fly by night. She'd been able to get to the mid six figures in her business. And she came to me and said that she was closing down. She was closing down her business. And it wasn't because, she said it was because she didn't, it wasn't a hell yes anymore. One of the things that I help people to sort of say, like, are you doing, if what you're doing is a hell yes, or, it has to have a strong thing. But I had done some real work with her to sort of assess her particular love for the business. And it really was there. But the challenges that she was facing in the business and the way that she handled those challenges made it difficult for her to get past that. And there's a lot of doubt, there's a lot of, uncertainty, a lot of this imposter syndrome, a lot of, not, am I good enough? A lot of, frankly, to be honest, not willing to do what needs to be done to make the business happen. Let me be frank about that. Not willing to do the sales behaviors, not being willing to hire fast, those kinds of things that build up a company. And I find that with a lot of women entrepreneurs, where when I am not saying that this is across the board, so I'm not, saying this is the whole thing. I don't find those kinds of distractions when I work with clients that are men. And they're very, very focused on whatever it takes to do the thing. And the distractions around it's not like they're saying, oh, I'm just so happy that, I love sales or whatever the thing is, that is a distraction for them, but they don't wallow in it in the emotional part of it. And so I do wonder, I was talking to a colleague of mine even just yesterday, and she was saying, I wonder whether or not the way that business is structured, because it was very much built on a male prototype, that I wonder if it just so happens that men fall into it a little bit easier because of the way that it was built for them. And I thought it was a really interesting way to look at it. I also wonder whether or not, I was talking to one of my clients. She is a high achiever. Most of the clients that I work with are extremely high achievers. Obviously, they wouldn't be running a business, but she's a partner in a political consulting firm in Washington, D.C., and also has her own, firm on the side. And she speaks at all of these very high level political and, policy type things. And one of the conversations that we had yesterday was around her feeling like she was getting lost. Just like herself was getting lost. It was like a bang up year for her, bang up, like big time, being on many, many news shows, the whole thing. And she's like, I feel like I'm getting lost, me. And I wonder whether or not it's the fact is that women, leaders and entrepreneurs feel like they are losing, like the way that the things that need to happen for success to happen. I wonder if it doesn't allow for there to be a full embracing of one's own feminine self. I don't know. I'm not an expert. I know there are people out there that are way more experts at that. I'm only talking about what I see on the ground in a business strategy. And there's a significant difference. And before I would be like, rush on, pull through, make it happen, that kind of thing. But I am beginning to pause and wonder, is this working for 50% of us that hold up the sky? And I think it's not, based on my anecdotal experience.
Yeah. I love that you broke it down that way, and that you just talked about your own personal experience with your clients, because I do agree with you. I think a lot of times, with men, and you see it in business and just everyday business, a lot of doors are already open, right? They're not like women most times where we've got to like beat the door down, kick it down, unscrew it, do all those things to get inside. And a lot of times, like you said, by the time you get inside and you've done all that, you are wondering, like, did I lose me along the way to get there? So I think that's a very fair point in not only business, like a personal business owner, but also in just professional, like the corporate world. And with men, they don't have, the responsibilities most of the times that women carry. So they're not responsible for managing, a household or just trying to stay afloat. And women are carrying so much of like the, like not only like the physical burden of like managing a home and other things, but also the emotional
there's the mental
burden.
load.
Right. Yeah. And the man is like, and no disrespect to any man out there watching or listening, just a personal experience. Like you said, just I even noticed those things in my, my home, right? As like, oh, I'm like mentally, like carrying a load of like, oh, I've got to do all these things for my business. And my husband's just like coming in the house from like work and like, hey, what's up? What we doing? And it's just like, pause. So I agree with you. I think it is very difficult, but at the same time, I think that for women, we have to be able to, I get it. I know what you're saying. There's a balance, but there are times where you do have to push through.
Yes.
Because it is often not going to just be provided to us. So
Exactly.
you have to draw a line in the sand.
And oh my gosh, Kyra, that's exactly my point too. It's like I find that I do the balance because a part of me is do you want it bad enough? Like, do you want it? And there's a couple of things that postures I come from in that perspective. One is, Dr. King had this whole concept of the urgency of now, right? There's an urgency to do the things that you're trying to get to. Because let's look at the world globally. There are problems to fix. There are serious problems. And that's what a business, it's an entity, yes, that generates value for the stakeholders, but it's also an entity that solves a problem. And what I have found is that, particularly women business owners, their businesses are actually solving problems. Our world needs whatever it is. And I know that sounds cliche. People always say, and they're like, oh, well, it's really not that important. No, the world needs whatever it is that women business owners have that can solve whatever the problem is commercially that can be solved.
Right.
So when you're sitting there saying, yes, this is what I do, this is what my business does, this is the problem we solve, there must be an urgency within that says, yes, I have all of these other things that are distracting me emotionally and socially and all the pressures. But how do you get to the core of saying, how do I still get through that? How do I still do it? Because if you don't, then you are disappointing the world, whatever it is, whoever it is that was assigned to your circle, you are disappointing them. And that doesn't happen. And it's not like, oh, well, someone else will do it. No, they won't. They really won't. Les Brown always talks about the graveyard is the richest place because that is where all the ideas go to die. And we cannot, whatever the problem is, I'm not a sociologist, okay? So I don't know, and I can't dissect the reasons why there is this sort of weird disparity for women and men. At the end of the day, though, we need to find ways to do it. And there are some strategic ways one can do it. It's not like, oh, woe is us and there's no way. First things first is to be able to identify what are the things that you can do to outsource to another person. And it's like, well, women are always like, well, for instance, like, they're taking care of their kids, taking their kids to school or cooking for the home or whatever. Someone else can do that. Someone else probably a better cook than you are. I know that you think that you are the best, but there's probably someone else that can cook better than you, or at least somewhere along the side of you. Hire someone to come and cook the food. And right now, back in the day, it was a lot more costly to be able to hire someone to outsource your cooking for you. But now it's not that bad. There's so many services that you can order foods like whole foods to, cook and be able to make it easy. Or you can have someone that comes in and just, maybe just creates the healthy snacks and packs your growth. Maybe the person just goes and buys the groceries. One needs to be thinking about how can you offload all of the things that are keeping you from being able to then feed your soul, because the reality is the same way, it's like the care and tending of oneself. Okay. If you're going to grow a plant, I've got this little plant behind me and it's dying, God bless it. But, you gotta water the plants. Yeah. You got to put some little food in there. You got to put it in the sunlight. So there's a care and feeding of oneself, whatever that looks like. For me, I really love when I can sing. Okay, when I was much younger, I had time to be singing in the gospel choir and then do that and that fed my soul. I don't have time for that. So what I do is I take voice lessons when I can't, and then I just go practice my singing in a little place, and then that's what I do to feed my soul. Okay, whatever it is that feeds your soul. So the question is, people are like, well, I don't have time for that. Well, then hire someone to take some of the things off your plate that you don't have to do, so that you can feed your soul. Because the more you feed your soul, the more you water yourself, put some little, sunlight, a little plant food in there, the more you have energy within you to then say, okay, yes, right now I'm confronting a sales problem. I'm having a hard time getting this client to understand what the value is, but you have more energy, so you have more thoughts, more ideas, more creativity, and you can go for it. The urgency of now is real, and we must step into the roles that we play in this world, and that is around problem solving.
Yes to all those things. And I, first of all, agree with you so much about like find somebody else to do. The best thing I ever did for myself, and this was even pre-pandemic, was start letting Instacart do my shopping. Like I haven't been in the grocery store since probably, I think 2019. I'd already started that. And it's such a thrill for me not to have to go. And then also any other things that I buy, they get delivered. Yes. But that is like a weekly thing that I don't have to do.
And I'm sure if you were to time out, like the amount of time, like doing the list, driving to the place, being in line, going through the thing, that's like 2 hours a week of your time.
Yes. And time that now I can spend on other things. Exactly. Right. So I think people have to, because I'm using this as an example because it's a small example, but it's a real one, because a lot of times I hear people and they're like, well, I mean, that's expensive to do that. I'm like, a Instacart membership costs me $75 a year. And that's free delivery every time they come. And, and I'm just like $75 versus, like you said, 2 hours every week.
Yes.
I mean, I think I'm okay with like the $75.
And think about it, Kyra, you're a CEO of a company. I'm just putting that into perspective. You're a CEO of a company. Your time is way more than $75 an hour.
Yeah.
I think there's like a society, and we all, we've all been a victim of this thought process, but society always degrades women's work. So we don't value it to the same amount. Okay. People who are caretakers of our children in daycare, they get paid, I don't know what, teachers, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So women's work is always less valued by way of economics, and economics is all that there is, to be honest. Let's be honest. Okay.
Yeah.
So, but you think about it, if you were to start looking, saying, if you're trying to build, and I always tell people, act the way that you want to be. Okay. So, for me, my core strategic goal has I'm trying to be, in the next 15 years, I'm trying to be $1 billion company. So if I'm going to act like a CEO of $1 billion company, then what is my salary and what is my time worth? So then you start beginning to look a little bit differently about things.
Yeah.
$75 is not a thing.
Yeah. I love that, because it is such a good point, and especially, like you said, as we look at businesses and we look at women led business, oftentimes we're, well, I'm not going to charge this much for my services because what, because why? And
because
it's like, so it's like you have people saying, oh, okay, I'm going to charge $100 an hour for like this service. But then you have to take on how many clients just to make enough money to like live. Whereas it's one of those things where I've come to the conclusion of like the right people, I will reach the right people, and the right people will find me, because I'd rather find the people who are committed. Because guess what? When you are developing, if it's personal development or if you are, no matter what you are doing, investing in yourself, like that's the investment. I'm making the investment in me. And when you have these people who are saying things like, I hear a lot of people, when I talk about coaching or I talk about therapy, it's like, I mean, I want to do those things, but they're too expensive. I'm like, really? Because like therapy's covered under a lot of insurances. So, I mean, I've got like a $25 copay. So for me to do, that's like, $50 a month. I mean, I think it's worth it. Yes. Or if you just think about like, having coaches, like I told people, like, yes, I've got like I have a business coach. Oh, like you've got a coach and a therapist? Yes, they're separate. They don't do the same things. I'm like, they don't do the same things, but guess what? I am worth the investment.
Yes.
And it's worth it to me to do that for myself and to grow a business. And I think like we as women have to push aside the other stuff, because I'm like, yeah, you can look at things. I could look at when I was going and spending money at Starbucks every day and buying, $5, $6 coffee, where I'm like, wow, you know what? I can drink that coffee at home and put that money, somewhere else. And it's just a matter of what's important to you.
Yes. There's also this underlying, and again, we all have a money story, right? I'm sure that you've confronted your own money story to get you to where you are. And so we all have a money story. And if everyone is thinking that that's not true, we all right now, unless you live in a more natural way, sort of way that people used to live before, there's really nothing that you can procure or do or experience that doesn't require money exchanging. Even right now, I mean, I think, obviously weak oxygen is free, but clean oxygen does cost money too, because, there are certain areas so we all interact with money. And depending upon the story that we grew up with around money, we definitely have this kind of concept. We all do. Some people have a very healthy money story because they grew up in a home that there was a lot of healthy views around money. But a lot of people grow up in different kinds of homes and different beliefs around money. It is really so important to begin to identify what your money story is, so you begin to break it. If you find that, you just like, if you're hearing this conversation and you're thinking to yourself, yeah, whatever Kerry-Ann and Kyra is saying is fine, but I honestly still can't see myself, spending money for someone to come and help me pick the kids up from school or whatever, then start identifying what your money story is. And a good way to do that is just simply start saying money is, and start writing it down. And then the first time you're going to say money is, be like, money is important, money is blah, blah, blah. But get down to money is the times 100, and then you'll get to the true root of your beliefs around money. And, and once you get to that, then you can change your beliefs. You can renew your mind around what money is, because there's abundance there. There's money everywhere. There is abundance everywhere. And so, and you can get money from all sources. You can get money from ways, from things that you work to get. You can get money from things that you don't work to get. Money is simply, and recognizing your source is not the individuals. The source is whether or not you believe in God. It's your source, whether you believe in the universe, something bigger than yourself. That's the source. So therefore, if you can begin to identify what your money story is, begin to renew your mind around your money story, and then operate from a different place, you can begin to get past these sort of feelings like, oh, it's going to be too expensive for me to hire a business coach. It's too expensive for me to, have someone pick my kids up from school. It's too expensive for me to do whatever the thing is. And remember, the reason why we're doing this is not just because you're like, oh, well, I'm going to take all this load off. It's giving you the space, the time, oxygen. Time is a non-renewable resource. Time is a non-renewable resource. Once that minute's gone, that minute's gone. So, and we all have a finite amount of time, 24 hours in a day. That's what we have. So therefore, if you want to use your time well so that you can be able to run your business well, you have to find ways to feed your soul and to do the things that you particularly are on this earth to do. If you don't like filing, if you don't like checking to make sure that, follow-up emails, then, fine, bring an assistant in that does all the stuff that you don't like. I'm telling you, there are people out there that love doing stuff that I'm a big picture person. Yeah. Okay. I mean, I can do tiny things. And of course, being a strategist, I can go down to the granular, but I have people on my team that love the details. Like,
yes.
And I'm just like, well, praise the Lord. And so let hire people so they can do the detail stuff. And it takes them way less time than you do because you don't like it. Or maybe you are a detailed person, someone's more big picture, whatever the point is. This is around leveraging time, and you need money to leverage that time.
Thank you. We love a good bonus tip here for our listeners and watchers. So let's talk a little bit more about this idea behind, doing it together, finding people to help you. How can people start, by structuring a business? Because guess what? As entrepreneurs, and especially when they're solopreneurs starting out, you're thinking, oh my gosh, you can't, like, if I'm not doing it, it's all going to implode if I miss a day.
Yeah. 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 Okay. So there's some fundamental things that must take place in a business. I really believe there's 8 components that I think need to exist in a business for it to truly work. I call this the big idea methodology. And one of the things is the foundational elements of such business. And I find that, particularly early days in the business, there are some things that you can do to put in foundation that will allow for you to build solid. I can't, let me give an example, but like so many companies that come to me. So like I work with business owners that are, small, medium-sized companies, right? Mm-hmm. So they can have anywhere from 150 employees down to 50 employees, and even sometimes down to 10. So if you think about it, sometimes they get to that stage and there's some problems that started very early on and it's very difficult to fix them. So one of the things that I think is really important is for you as a business owner, if you're early days, is to think about, what is my life plan? And I know that doesn't sound businessy, but what do you really want? How do you want to live your life? How do you want, what's important to you? What's your life vision, your life purpose, your life thingy? And that sounds a bit mushy, but when you are the one building the business is there to generate value for its stakeholders. Right now, you are the primary stakeholder. If the business vision is not aligned with your life vision and your life plan, you have built it on rocky ground. Therefore, I always start first with get your life plan together, be clear about what you want. Then once you've done that, start looking at your business vision. Everyone's like, well, what is a business vision? Because I think people throw that word around and they truly honestly don't know. So here are the 3 components that I have decided is what a business vision is. It includes, first of all, being clear about what your values are in your business. Okay. What are the values? Now, you may already have those values that are in your head, but articulating what the values are in your business is really so very important. For instance, REI, one of their big, values is basically treat every customer like they are a friend. That's a value. Now, I know we operate with large corporations and they have all these values that are sitting on their wall and they're like, we don't really see how the values are coming down. But there are other businesses that we walk in and we can see their values right front and center. You want to first come up with what are your values in your business. Secondly, we want to be very clear about what your purpose is. I'm not talking about some long whither thou type, biblical statement. We're talking about one sentence that's very short and pithy, but that can encapsulate what it is that you do. So in our business, we say we're in the business of helping businesses thrive. That is just it. That's our purpose. We're in the business of helping businesses thrive. Spend some time just figuring out what's your purpose statement. And that's going to be your true north. Okay. And once you have your values, you've got your purpose. And the third component of your business vision is what is your core strategic goal? Your core strategic goal, if you are any big fan of business readings and stuff like that, this came out of Jim Collins in his books. He's written a number of them, but one of which is like Big to Great is the most popular one. It's called a BHAG, right? Big, hairy, audacious goal. Now, so that's what your core strategic goal is. Your core strategic goal should be something that gets you out 15 years into the future, even 20. And it is the goal that you want to be, and you're writing it in the present tense. So our core strategic goal is to be, or we are, the premier business consulting firm serving Fortune 100 companies in the area of business of digital security. Maybe that's and then I would probably go further and saying earning $1 billion with a diverse team of engineers and staff that are around the world and we serve you at a region, we serve, North America and Europe. You want to make your core strategic goal very clear. How much you guys are earning, who's your team made of, who do you serve, what regions do you serve in, right? What are the adjectives that describe you? Once you have that core strategic goal clear, that's your business vision, okay? You've got your values, you've got your purpose, and you've got your core strategic goal. Now, once you do that, you take a look at your life goal and you look at your business goal. Are these aligned? Is this business a business that supports your life goal, your life vision, your life purpose? If there's some sort of, I'm not really sure, then rework. What do we rework? Kyra, we don't rework the life plan. We rework the business vision. Yes. So once you have that solid, and I'm not saying that people never change, but if you do the work here, you have something solid, then you start looking at, okay, what's our business plan? What's our exit strategy? What is our way that we develop our products? How do we, how do we develop the products that hit the needs? Do we have all of these other elements that are still foundational, but they are standing? The more solid it is, you're building something. So now you have that. Then you can start creating strategy around it because there's something to put it on, right? You have systems around it. You've got some processes around it. And you asked about how do you get people. Look, I'm just saying, right now, we're living in a global society. There are people in other parts of the world that you can contract with that because their cost of living in their nations is lower than, depending, and like if your audience is in the US, obviously the US cost of living is a little higher, the same way like in the UK and other parts. But there are other parts of the world where the cost of living is less. You can contract with those individuals where you're paying them a living wage or even higher than a living wage for their particular geographical area. They are smart. They are educated. They know what to do. You bring them on board to help you build the company. And then at some point, you start building. But right now, if you're doing this and you don't even have an executive assistant, oh my goodness gracious. So right now, I don't really think there's an excuse for not being able to at least bring, even if what you need, depending upon your need, even if you have a young person in your life, you're got a nephew, or a niece, bring them in to do some things, right? The point here is there are people that can help you, and you need to be able to recognize that you cannot build this alone. However, you need to have a clear, people are not going to flock to you or want to work with you if it is not clear the direction of your business. Just saying, oh, well, I've got to, and it doesn't have to be like fancy schmancy. I mean, even if you have a vending machine company, which by the way, those make quite a bit of money, you still have to have a purpose for why your vending machine company exists and what the values are.
Right.
So you can't just hire people and say, or bring people on board and they have no vision of the company. People want to work with people that have, without a vision, people will perish, period and done.
I thank you so much for that, because I think a lot of people don't think about hiring people in other countries. I think a lot of times they're just thinking about, I got to get somebody who's here. And if you're US based, I'm just saying that obviously, honest, I do have people listening and watching in other countries, but I'm using the US as an example. But yes, a lot of times there's just like, I could get someone based here, but it's like, no, start looking out. I've done that with my business, and found people in other countries, and it is awesome.
Yes.
It's really great because you get different perspectives.
Yes.
And it's not just the one lens in which we see things from. And also too, just having that team around you, people that you can trust. There might be some things that you may be overlooking.
Yes.
And a lot of times when it's our personal business, it's our baby, our dream. A lot of times you may just be like, no, like this is it. This is what I want to do. And then you need that like extra lens to say, but have you thought about it this way?
Yes. Yes. And it's hard. People have a difficult time kind of allowing other thoughts to come in. But I have found that has been the strength of building a team. It's sort of like people's different ideas come in and you're like, oh, okay. I didn't think about it that way. That's smart. And a part of it is letting go of your ego. If you're the smartest person in the room, that's just a problem.
Yes.
Now, look, the only thing you can't delegate, because I think there are a lot of things you can delegate. The only thing you can't delegate is the strategic priorities and driving the strategic goals of the company forward. So once you're clear, that's why it's really clear to sort of have a business vision and also work on developing a strategy. Once you have that really, really, really clear, then your goal, your purpose really is to drive that. So, if you start looking at kind of like, you're like, okay, well, how do I start building a team? Like, okay, yes, maybe there are many ways you can build a team. You can build a team domestically. You can build a team internationally. Look, all the big companies, all the very large corporations that we look at, like they have employees all over the place, right? So this is not an issue of, whatever, outsourcing is bad. I mean, if you have an ethical problem with that, that's you do you. If you want to be sort of like made in your country kind of thing, that's perfectly fine. I'm just saying in a globalized economy at this point, it's a done deal, people. It's a globalized.
Yeah.
Anyway, you start thinking about how to build a team. I always say this: build your org chart. Like, even if it's still just you, look at your company, build your org chart based on where you need it to go. Now, okay, fine. Maybe you don't want to go build it out 15 years. Okay. Maybe you can't have that amount of projection, but you can build it out 3 years out. Okay. You say, okay, if I know that my BHAG is this, what would 3 years out look like for me? And if I need to be at 3 years out, how many, what people do I need to be able to have to build that 3 years out business? Okay. And I think from there, you can kind of then, when I say build it out, I mean, build it out. And who needs to be in each role, what type of personality, temperament, what qualifications do they need? What do they actually do? Because the thing is, your name's going to be in every box of the org chart. Okay. That in the beginning stages, and you're working it. So while you're working it, write down what it takes to do it, because you're doing it. Write down what it takes to do that role and what kind of temperament would you need. Maybe you are one particular personality type and you realize doing this part of the job requires someone who is completely opposite than your personality. Write that down.
Yeah.
And then I often recommend hiring from the more junior people on the team to the point where you're beginning to put yourself out of a job as you go up on the org chart. So you're doing everything right now. So you are bottle washer, factory sweeper, you're everything. You're the product packager. Okay. Yeah. And then you're also the CEO, you're also the chairman of the board. So start putting yourself out of a job from the more junior people in the team, hiring up, continue to hire up to the point where, now. And also have job descriptions and also job, not just job descriptions, but also agreements around what between you and yourself, and then whoever you hire, you and that person. So it's very clear on what their roles are. Don't do what a lot of small businesses do, where they're like, oh, cousin Susie knows social media, so let me go ahead and bring her in. Or, Uncle John's a good accountant, so I'll bring him in. I mean, that's one way to do it. But then what ends up happening, people come to me and they're like, we have a problem with our team. And I'm like, yeah, because it's a little bit messed up. So we now have to go back and do the whole thing. Start early days, but start from creating an org chart, developing your job descriptions, developing the job agreements, understanding what the temperament of the person to fill that, what their qualifications are. Then you start hiring from the junior roles all the way up.
Yes. Love that. Thank you. I love I love tangible things that people can do from my guests. And I think that the way you have outlined this has been phenomenal. Okay, so let's talk about a little bit about your experience as a lawyer. Yes. I know anybody who just heard me say that are like, okay, now how has your experience as a lawyer helped you in advising business owners and helping them to create the strategies and the systems and even the mindset that we've talked about in order to thrive?
Well, one of the things too that I think is really important is first to understand, again, back to you can't do it alone. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things you must do if you're doing a business is you must have an accountant and you must have an attorney. And I really recommend, because a lot of people have an issue with the financial part of it, you must have a bookkeeper.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Those are three fundamental professionals that you should bring on. People now are like, oh, the fractional CFOs and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's great. You can do that. But for the most part, just get you a bookkeeper. It's a very affordable hire. And bookkeepers tend to have several clients. They don't it's not like a full-time team staff.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with your accountant and your attorney. You want to build those kinds of elements within your business that make sense early days. And when it comes to finances, here's the thing around there are 4 top reasons why businesses fail. The number one is because of cash. Cash.
Mm-hmm.
Cash is king, period and done. Not content. Okay. Cash. Cash is king. So the reason why I know it is that a lot of people have an issue with cash. Obviously, it could be because you don't have enough sales. That's a no-brainer. You can look and see if you don't. But really, if it's because you don't have you don't know where the cash is in your business. Mm-hmm. And there's not a lot of projection. You can't tell. I always recommend clients have a 12-month projection out to know what's happening in their business. Mm-hmm. So you know where the cash is, not the profits, the cash. Okay. Mm-hmm. You need a bookkeeper to be able to do that for you so that you can look at it on a monthly basis and look at all the statements that are coming in on a monthly basis to know what's happening and for them to explain it to you. Mm-hmm. So that's one. You need to protect yourself legally, because the reality is business is business. It's not, it's not like we're not in fairyland. We're not here kumbaya. And yes, you are providing a service. You are providing a solution to a problem, but business is business. So you have to protect yourself. Your contracts need to be tight. And even though, I'm an attorney, so I happen to have some skill sets around writing contracts and such, but I still have, people that I know who are business attorneys run through and look at my contracts. Mm-hmm. You want to have someone, just because there's like some website online that says, here you can download, whatever the contract is, whatever. That's mm-hmm. nice. I mean, I think it's a good service. So I'm not poo-pooing mm-hmm. that. However, every business is different. And so you do need to have someone, and it doesn't cost a lot of money to have a business attorney to take a look at your stuff to make sure everything is tight. Mm-hmm. Because mm-hmm. any little thing, I remember the story of this one company. And so, there's Teavana, right? The company, mm-hmm. the Teavana. Mm-hmm. I think they sold it to Starbucks, but they were like a big tea, whatever thing. Yeah. My mom used to buy all the expensive teas there, and I loved it. So but before Teavana, there was a company called Tiana, mm-hmm. and it was a small business. Tiana, mm-hmm. they were like a subscription-based tea company. People would go and, mm-hmm. They could like once a month do teas, and then they could get them every month and blah, 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 blah. And this company had been around for 15 years prior to Teavana. Mm-hmm. This company, however, was a smaller company, hadn't grown to the size of Teavana, and their contracts and their copywriting and their trademarking wasn't tight. So when Teavana started getting bigger, they found out about Tiana, and they sued Tiana, and Tiana had to go out of business. And they had a huge list of people, but now they had to rebrand the whole company. They never bounced back, ever. Mm-hmm. And that was 15 years of investing in their business. Mm-hmm. It was not smart. I'm just saying, God bless them, but it wasn't smart. So you need to be able to make sure that you have some fundamental structures in your play in business that exist. Now, in terms of the systems and processes, once you have a strategy, then you have to be able to look and see, how do you execute that strategy? 64% of business strategies fail because of poor execution. This is not 64% of business strategies of small and medium-sized companies. It's 64% of business strategies across the board. Okay. There is a thing called the strategy execution gap that exists in business, and it's big business to try to figure out how to close that gap. When you talk about 64%, if you do all the work now for, let's say a large company like Google, they have a 64% gap. They're still getting a lot of things done in their business. Okay.
Right.
But if you're a small business, you're looking at your strategy, and your strategy is based on maybe 4 tactics, whatever the thing is that you're doing, and 64% failure. I mean, my goodness gracious, you're really losing a lot of money, and the business is not thriving. So you want to begin. So the issue is around execution. How do you execute? Well, there's a couple of reasons why to make sure you get execution well. One of those things is be able to have systems and processes in place that will allow for you to make sure that these things happen, and they happen the same time, the same way. And that's always going to happen. So you can automate a lot of things, but you don't really know how to create those systems and processes because you don't really know what's happening in your business. So you want to spend the time to take a look and see, okay, because you were in every single position. If you're a solopreneur, you're lucky because you're in every single position of the company. So now you can have eyes on the thing. You know what it takes to, send out a proposal. You know what the steps are that to build a company. You know what the steps are to get us on a sales conversation. You know what the steps are to whatever the thing is, right? Make sure those things get systemized. And if they can be automated, even better. Yes. There's several things now that can be automated that never used to be able to be automated before. Or if you wanted to automate them, it would cost a lot of money. Nowadays, there's so many things you can automate. But in the end, when you start hiring a team on, you don't want people doing things all willy-nilly.
Right.
You need to this is the way we do things here. So you want to create those systems, those processes, do your best to automate them, and train the team as you hire. Say, this is how we do it here. Look, you don't have to hire brainiacs from Howard University or Morehouse or Harvard to be able to run your business. You can hire people that are self-motivated and can learn, and you train them in how you do things in your business, and bam, you've got a good team running. So I do think that's really some of the things. Get a lawyer, a bookkeeper, an accountant. Make sure those parts of your business are tight. Then you create the systems and processes that are necessary to run your business. Nothing willy-nilly, as best you can, and optimize those things and automate as best you can. Train your team to do the things the same way it's done all the time. Nobody likes. I know that your audience is healthy people, but McDonald's. If you go to McDonald's in New York City, or you go to McDonald's in San Diego, it's the same Big Mac. It tastes the same. People want to know that if they experience your company and they love what it is that you do, that whatever experience they had that got them there is going to be the same experience that's going to keep them there. Therefore, as a part of the process is to make sure that the way you do things is the way you do things. That's why you want to make sure you have processes.
Exactly. Awesome. Love that. All right, Kerry-Ann, why don't you tell us about how the audience can work with you and any programs that you are offering? Absolutely. And also how they can connect to you.
Absolutely. Well, you can connect with me. I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. So find me. It's Kerry-Ann T. Powell. I really love connecting people in a real meaningful way. So please message me. Just say hello. Don't just follow me. Say hi. Okay. And I do spend some time on Instagram as well. So if you're on Instagram or LinkedIn, you can find me, say hello. Our website for our company is trafalgarstrategies.co. You can visit there, play around there. You can see some of our success stories and find out more about what it is that we do. However, if you found that some of the conversation that we had today really began to step on your toes and you sort of felt like, you know what, I'm having chaos in my business and I don't know why, and I'm trying to fix it, I do have a gift for you. It's a PDF that I have downloaded my brain into around what are the 8 things that, people always talk about the 4 things that are chaotic in a business, but I went through and figured out what are the 8 things that are the core reasons why chaos is happening in one's business. And the title of the book is The 8 True Culprits Causing Chaos in Your Business. And you can find that at nobusinesschaos.com. Just put your name and email address in, download it, spend some time today reading through it, identify those chaotic things, because chaos is the enemy of business. It's those are the things that really get people's businesses failing, regardless of how large they are. So nobusinesschaos.com if you feel like you're having some chaos in the business.
Awesome. Love that. All right. Well, this has been great. I love all this advice that you've given us today. Now we're going to move in. We're going to do 3 things with Kerry-Ann. I'm going to ask you 3 questions. Helps our audience get to know you just a little bit better.
Sure.
The first question, it happens to be a 2-parter. So 1 A and B. How do you start and end the day?
Oh, wow. On the very good days when I'm being at my highest self, I do spend the day connecting to God. For me, it's really important. And really connecting to what's true for me. I also have a vision of what I want, who I am in this world and what my business is in this world. And it's on my phone in my notes section. And I have a nice image and I just go through and I read it and I am reminded of it. And so when I am operating from my highest self, I start the day that way.
Awesome. And how do you end the day?
I end the day, I actually have a nighttime ritual. I really do believe in actually going to bed and not just like falling asleep in bed. I really like the idea of giving myself the 30 minutes before I go to bed where I'm, doing the thing, washing the face, brushing the teeth, putting the hair up, whatever, putting on nice pajamas or not, whatever. But making sure that I am actually going to bed as opposed to just crashing. And I do take some space between when I work and then when it's time to go to sleep. There is an evening for me, and
Right. Yes.
and I try my best to enjoy it. And then I go to bed. And I know that sounds so simple. I'm like, well, that doesn't sound, but so many folks just crash, at the end. Or they crash in front of the TV or whatever. I just like the idea of honoring myself and my body and going to bed.
Love that. All right. So tell us, what's a goal or intention you've set for yourself, and where might you be with that now?
Well, this year I decided that I was going to try to be more deliberate about following my lists, doing things that I enjoy doing and that aren't necessarily connected to building my business. And I would say that I'm probably not as far along with that particular intention as I would probably like, but I have done some things to make sure, like one of the things that I really enjoy doing is talking on the phone with my close friends. That is life-giving for me and it's blissful and I love it. And so one of my good friends and I, we decided we were just going to talk on Sundays and just, pray over our businesses together because we have big goals and, we have a spiritual side of ours. But now, we do that. We talk about the business, we pray, but then there are some times we'll talk for hours, just shooting the breeze, talking about stuff, and it fills me up. It fills me up. And so I literally will message friends and be like, hey, let's hop on a Zoom and let's talk. And just the other day, I was talking to a friend of mine who we probably hop on a Zoom once a quarter, or every 5 months. And, it's just joy and it's bliss and it's wonderful. And those are the things that really, we talked earlier around this concept of not losing oneself in running your business. And that is something that brings me to who I am. I also really enjoy traveling quite a bit. I split my time, to be honest, between Spain and the US. So when I am back in Europe, I do try to, get out there and travel to other places more because I enjoy I just like getting on a plane.
Yeah. Awesome. I love that.
With a passport stamp.
All right. And lastly, what's a book, podcast, show, or anything that's inspiring you right now?
Yeah. So there's always, like one of my friends was like, Kerry-Ann, you always got some book to hawk. I think, there's a book that I really listen to. I have it on audiobook, and I've been listening to it for like 2 years now. Ever so often it pops up, and I'm going to give you the actual title. It was written like years and years ago, and but it always makes me think. And the name of the book is Psycho-Cybernetics, and it's written by Maxwell Maltz. And he talks quite a bit around the concept of, Bob Proctor used to say this all the time. We can't out-earn our self-image. We can't out-earn our self-image. And we talked about Money Story earlier. And this book really talks about how weird our self-image really is. It's false. Our self-image it's formulated, and it gives you some really great strategies on how to really build a self-image that makes sense. But it does a lot of work in helping you recognize how false our self-images are. It's just a figment of our imagination. If we can build a better self-image, we can then be able to build a better life and enjoy our lives more. So that's the book right now. I ever so often go back and listen to it. I've read it completed it several times. Mm-hmm. However, I was on a plane last week doing some work with a client. I came back and I said, let me just, we'll go on my phone and see what's out there. And I started listening to it again. So it's been on my playlist this week. Mm-hmm. And some of the nuggets are so good. So I think that's a great one. Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. So lastly, before I let you go, will you leave our audience with 3 things you'd like them to take away from this conversation today?
You can run your business smoothly. It does not have to be chaotic. You can run it. You can thrive. Okay. Because we were talking about this earlier, if you're a female entrepreneur, recognize that maybe the way that businesses are built, it isn't necessarily the way that you need to build your business. Recognize that for some reason we, have different needs. So find ways to own yourself and to see what's necessary for you to thrive while you are building your business. But third, build the business. Build it and build it big. Don't go small, build it big, because the world needs whatever it is you're building.
Awesome. I absolutely love that. Well, Kerry-Ann, I thank you so much for joining the show today. And I know you were a little under the weather today, but nobody can tell, these nuggets you have been dropping have been gold. So we are very grateful that you were able to spend time with us today, and nothing but all the success to you and your business. And thank you so much for the work that you do in helping businesses thrive.
Kyra, thank you for having me on your show. I really feel honored. Thank you.
Awesome. Stay tuned, everyone. I'll be right back. Welcome back to the Gyrl Podcast. I'm Kyra. I want to thank Kerry-Ann again for joining the show. Such a great conversation. I don't know about you, but I'm leaving the conversation ready. It's always great to learn something new. It's always great to just, get that extra motivation that you may have needed. And I feel like this was a really, really awesome conversation today. So if you want to learn more about Kerry-Ann, you want to know how you can work with Kerry-Ann, check out the links in the show notes. Also, if you'd like to learn more about Glow Up Gyrl, visit us at glowupgirl.com. You can check out past podcast episodes. You can fill out our form to be a guest on the show. grab our resources from the Evolution section of our site. So it is anything from self-care workbooks to leadership ebooks. So anything that can help you along your professional and personal and also your business journey. So check us out there. Also, make sure you are checking out our career-focused episodes. We'll be back this year with more. I may have mentioned a time or two that I am a workingpreneur. So it is where I share insights from my own personal career journey, where I also answer your questions and help anyone who might want to hear about a certain topic. I want to help anyone who might be thinking I'm transitioning in my career, or I want to elevate up in my career, or guess what? I just don't know if I'm in the right career at all. So head on over there and check out those episodes. Also, be sure to join us over on Patreon and unlock the Glow Getter membership. So when you join us over on the community, you'll gain exclusive access to career tips and guidance, resources, and so much more. Everything there is designed to help you create a life and a career that you love. So whether you're starting out or you're looking to level up, our membership can empower you to reach those new heights. Also, if you are listening on a platform where you can leave us a review, please do so. I love reading your reviews. Also, if you're on the platform that allows you to rate the show, please rate the show. Also, make sure you share this podcast if it resonates with you and you think, oh my gosh, you heard this episode today and you think, oh, my friend so-and-so is trying to start a business or they just started one. Make sure you share it. Sharing is caring. Don't keep all the goodness to yourself. And if you are sharing us on social media, make sure you tag us in the post. Also, if you are new here and just finding this podcast, I want to say welcome to the Gyrl family. As always, I want to thank you all so much for the support. It's a new year. I'm really excited about what's to come. So as always, thank you all so much for the support and for the time that we spend together. It means so much to me. So until next week, stay focused, fab, and glow up. Take care, everyone.